Hi there. Welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds, and today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Jon DeLuce, CEO of Abitibi Metals. Trades on the CSE with the ticker AMQ. Hey, Jon, how you doing today?
Great. You catch us on a great day, closing at an all-time high. It's great to be back.
Yeah, I think you closed at 71 cents, up about 18% on the day. And just to put it in perspective, this is the third time that we're chatting on the channel. And I know we've chatted a bit more sort of outside that, but third time sort of on the channel. And, the first two times your shares were kind of around 30 cents each time that we chatted. We chatted in July 2024 and then February, just this past year. And you close at 71. You're up over 130% since you first appeared on the channel. So good job, sir. Look forward to kind of unpacking all that you've had. Sort of, it's been nearly a year since we chatted, so you guys have not sat on your hands. You guys have been very busy, and really look forward to sort of unpacking a lot of that stuff. Maybe for some of my viewers that aren't kind of familiar with Abitibi, could you give us a quick sort of elevator pitch?
Yeah, no, I'm Jon DeLuce, CEO and founder of the company, where I'm myself, management, or the largest shareholders of the company with 20% investing over $5 million of our own capital. So we built the company from scratch, positioned for the market that we're in today. We recognize that with the amount of monetary debasement, the trade for gold, silver, copper, zinc was there. And we wanted to have an earlier stage company that we could align our capital and also our access to team and assets. And a big milestone, as he alluded to, is really building up on our team this year. The Ron team can take a great asset and destroy it. And we have really aligned what we believe is an excellent asset that we optioned off of the Quebec government subsidiary SOQUEM. We started with 11.5 million ton polymetallic resource, copper gold focused. We grew that by 63% in the first year. And is now with 18.5 million tons combined at 2.2% copper equivalent. That was done at $2,000 gold, $25 silver. We were to take spot commodity prices, it's close to 3%. So really, this is a world-class asset. Without the hard work by the Quebec government subsidiary SOQUEM, we wouldn't be in the position that we are in today. Really taking what is a deposit that is open, that has a lot of potential. And again, if this was with a junior or a producer, this would have been drilled off before it was ever optioned to us. And part of what will be coming out over this quarter is we have finished a 7-year obligation with the Quebec government in just over 2 years, 5 years ahead of schedule. That will move our ownership to owning 80% of the asset, completing all of our obligations, and being fully funded for up to 45,000 meters of drilling this year. And once again, all of the capital raised in 2025 was without any warrants. So really, we greatly appreciate the patience of our shareholders that believed in the project and was patient during a year that, as I said in February, the market just didn't get it yet. But we've hit some exceptional world-class drill results in the fourth quarter. We've paired that with long-term focused institutional capital that has come through our banking partners at BMO. So I think really with the copper and precious metal markets that we're entering into in 2026, we're really at the perfect storm for the company. And we're very excited to see what has transpired over the last year and still a lot to come over 2026, 2027.
Well, I'll tell you, I was a little worried that for you guys, because I know I could see how hard you were working and you guys were delivering and advancing, and I know that you guys take your work pretty seriously. You're not sort of just doing it for fun. And I don't know if there's a whole ton of fun, all the time. You make it look fun, but it can be some long nights and some hard days. But I was a little worried when your stock price didn't sort of move for a while, and you were kind of advancing it. I wondered if you'd get a bit dejected, but you guys stayed the course and obviously believed in what you guys had and the plan. And it's been wonderful to kind of see as copper started to catch a bid lately. You guys have been very top of mind and have provided some tremendous leverage to that copper price. So, like you said, the job's not over. It's just really begun. You're finally getting on some radar screens, which is good to see. But maybe since our last discussion, which was in February, you have added a few fairly significant individuals. Job well done at attracting the quality of talent. Could you explain about who some of these people are?
Yeah, no, I think as I mentioned, we designed our team, and we're very fortunate to attract the team with our end goal in mind. We believe B26 has the potential to be an economic deposit. We think we're very close to that critical mass mark, but we need a team that it can explore it the right way, that can show the path to mine development and have the capital markets experience to get the best value for all shareholders. And I think in 2025 and now 2026, we've really been able to grow the depth of our portfolio across those different categories. Starting with on the exploration corporate side, Laurent Estache, Louis Guerprix in early 2025. With Laurent's background as the EVP at Dior that was taken over by the Cisco Group, portfolio manager at CDEX, was with Agnico, and then Louis that just came off at the time had just come off of a takeover as the VP of exploration at O3 Mining that was taken over by Agnico. Um, and Louis' background with VMS deposits with his time at Noranda, IAM Gold, Anglo, combined with orogenic gold, that's exactly the combination that we have at B26. And then we take it a little bit further on the capital market side, and also a key now advisor and key shareholder with Craig Perry, with his strong track record with Vizsla Silver, Next Gen, ISO Energy. Uh, I could go on for 10
Yeah,
minutes, but he is, yeah.
he's the $1 billion market cap guy, huh? Everything's $1 billion. So good. So that's good foreshadowing maybe for you guys.
Well, and he's been a great supportive shareholder. He's given us great technical feedback on the deposit level. But I think like him, like I can't speak on his behalf, but similar to ourselves, we see this as a potential $1 billion company. And we see this as a foreign parallel, which is why we're excited to now have Dave Bernier as chief operating officer at the company, the mine builder that built the McIlvenny Bay mine for Foran, taking that from feasibility through to now very close to entering commercial production. So we've really built all of the pieces that we think will put the investors in the best position of success. Again, exploration doesn't mean anything unless we can prove that it's an economic deposit. Looking at our scoping, potential scoping study, mine development, how does that influence exploration? That doesn't matter unless you market it the right way. You have the right access to capital, to long-term funds that see the value of the asset, that gives us the runway to deliver. And I think all of our key new team members support in that thesis. And I think in 2026 will be a game changing year for us as we deliver resource update, um, clear out our option agreement with our Quebec partners, and the 45,000 meters that's fully funded. So a lot in store, but again, there's a lot of hard work behind the scenes. Besides, we have excellent exploration managers at site. We have an excellent team at site. So from our first interview, we have converted from what was a third party contracting team to I'd argue one of the best exploration and technical teams in the province. And that is all now Abitibi in-house. That gives us the advantage to allocate capital the right way, attract strong team members in a market that now is really performing.
Well, congrats on that. I know that's where a lot of your talent sort of lies, getting people sold on your vision and wanting to come join. So good stuff. Congrats on that. Over the past year, you kind of touched on, you guys did a few financings and you got to shake loose having to do those sweeteners and having to give up the half warrant or full warrant sort of dealios. I know as investors, as an investor, oh boy, we really love the full warrant deals, but those seem to be long gone with having a more buoyant, better sort of market. From an issuer perspective, it's really great not having to have that overhang. Would you mind, talking a bit about sort of the total capital that you guys have sort of raised since we last chatted, um, and where you guys are sort of sitting at cash wise today?
Yeah, so Our first bought deal with BMO was in April of 2025. That was at 28 cents a share, closing 11.5 million, as you mentioned, without any warrants. That really brought an institutional base that was the start of our institutional base, many of which made quite a bit of money off of beforehand and saw the parallels. Our next round was 35 cents, again with no warrant, that closed in December. That was uh, that was priced at sorry, the April round was 28. The round that we just completed was 35, once again with no warrants. But both of those rounds brought in Quebec critical charity flow through. And using the latest round as an example, the majority of our capital was raised at a 65% premium to market, allowing us to keep dilution as best controlled as we could. So the majority of our funds from November and December close was raised in Quebec critical charity flow through at a large premium to market that allows us to raise capital while managing dilution as best as we can. And that was a free trading prospectus, so all that is free trading stock in the market. But how we've traded since that financing, I think, speaks to the quality of the investors that were brought into that financing. We could have raised a lot more money than 16.1. It was cut down, and you saw that demand go into the open market. Unlike a lot of financings where it comes down to deal price and then kind of struggles, we came down to deal price and participants picked up positions and continued to add to their position, given that it was a very oversubscribed financing. So I think we now have a deep institutional shareholder base that sees the value, that are adding to positions, that want to see how can this be the next Foran. And I think that's a real turning point in our strategy as we enter 2026.
And are you guys fully funded now for 2026, or are you guys? I'm sure you're getting thrown, lots of offers for financing with the way you guys have been performing of late, and the way copper is certainly coming into sort of vogue here. It was obviously first all about gold, and it was silver. Now we moved into sort of like copper and some lithium and some of the other nickel. It goes on and on and on. It looks like all commodities are sort of rising in this new sort of multipolar sort of world, which I'm sure we can get into in a little bit. But you guys gonna be fully funded for this year?
Yeah, we're fully funded. We are fully funded for our 40 to 45,000 meter drill program. We have a lot of additional work around the drill program that's funded. Dave brings also a development arm of our business, looking at early stage baseline environmental permitting, continuing to build on our First Nations partnerships. So we want to build the strategy of where we want to be. 500 million to $1 billion market cap, you're firing on all cylinders. And that's what we're going to do for 2026. We want to, as I said, take the approach of the company where we want to be. And that's going to influence where we spend capital this year. So we have very healthy budget, $14 million in exploration this year. We're still going to start 2027 with a healthy treasury position. And again, I think as I've mentioned over the past 6 months, um, part of our goal is attracting a strategic investment from one of the producers. We think we're getting closer in that goal. There's a lot of parties that see the value of Abitibi and B26, but again, we don't want to wait for that to come to us. We want to continue to deliver on our milestones to ensure that all of our supporters to date are well rewarded. So we're fully funded for our plans for 2026. We're still budgeted to start with a healthy treasury to start 2027.
Great.
So we're excited about the position we're in.
And just for those watching, that doesn't mean that he won't do a financing if the right offer comes along, because you never want to wait till you have your last penny in the bank and then start looking for more money. So when the ducks are quacking, you got to feed them a little. But anyways, thanks for sort of going through all that. It's nice position to be in, to be sort of fully funded, especially with such a large sort of drill program. You mentioned it's about 45,000 meters that you're looking to do for 2026, if I'm not mistaken. And you guys did a lot of drilling and advancement. Again, you didn't sit on your hands last year and just recruit people. You also did a whole bunch of work. You did tens of thousands of meters of drilling. Maybe if you could sort of give us a little bit of a a reminder of the work that you kind of completed in 2025 in terms of total meterage, and then you guys also came out with an updated mineral resource estimate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the updated resource was at the end of 2024, and we're projecting to the market to release an updated resource by Q2 of this year. But we drilled just under 25,000 meters. That was both situated within resource improvement drilling, but also large scale step out. And we've been able to be quite successful in both. And some of the game changing results came in September through till as early as today in terms of what that phase 3 drill program yielded. And I think really some key developments there is comes from all the way across the deposit. Like starting at the west near surface, we hit in a step out hole 300 meters away. Now it's only a 3 meter, roughly 2% interval as of today, but that was within a 25-meter low grade halo. The important part is to see the alteration. We could see a high grade 20-meter zone open up in the proximity. But the important thing is seeing that alteration in low grade halo. It means the deposit continues. Now looking further down, the 269 wedges that we did, building up on gaps in the resource, starting with wedge 3, 4.5% over 21 meters within 1.8% over 69 meters. Really world-class results. That is a bulk underground type target. And we followed up on that up to 500 meters away. And that's where we announced high grade results this morning that included 12.83% over 5 meters within 3.6 over 19. But that 5 meters had 8 grams gold. So our thesis of could there be a bigger gold credit at depth has held with the program. But we've defined about a 250 meter deep, 500 meter strike of this high grade corridor. And the blockbuster result from this program came in November. It was 18% copper equivalent over 6.3 meters within 7% over just under 20 meters. And that 6.3 meters had over 5 grams gold. If you were to mark up that equivalent at spot, it's closer to 25% over that 6.3 meters. So really world-class results. So that Western plunge has been very successful. We think we're getting close to the source of the mineralization. Could there be a more massive source of this high-grade mineralization along strike or at depth? That's what we want to answer to a question we want to answer to the market within this large, fully financed program for 2026. Besides that, we had strong developments from the eastern side of the deposit. We extended the VMS lens by 75 meters. We extended it down 225 meters at depth with lower grade just at underground cutoff as of today. But that was a very wide mineralized envelope that we got to follow up on. But once again, the extension of the zone is there. We got to follow up on it. We have the budget, and yeah, really excited across that. And just last thing to note on our extensional strategy, we announced 373 wedge 1, where we intercepted just under 4% over 11 meters, as I said, in a 150 meter step out. Again, good gold credit, showcasing once again how much larger could this get, and that's why we're excited to be following up with 2 drills already turning, with a 3rd drill joining in a week from now.
Sounds pretty exciting. Is the project turning out to be bigger or more robust than maybe even first thought when you guys first did the deal to acquire? Because at the time that you first got into the deal here to acquire up to 80% of the project, it was a bit of a smallish, more historic deposit. Very robust grade, but it needed more exploration. You guys have had a couple of years, like you said, you've done 5 years worth of what you kind of committed to in terms of your agreement. You've done it in just over 2. Very impressive. So you guys have done a lot of work. Is this turning out to be even more sort of prolific than maybe you first imagined?
I think we saw the vision of where this could go, and our sights were set on the neighboring Salbei mine, which was a 60 million ton deposit, produced 53 million tons over 20 years. And our vision was, how could this be a Salbei sized target? From reviewing the asset, we saw similarities, and that was our vision. How could this be the next Salve? But what has surprised us is the grade. We couldn't have anticipated the type of world-class grades that we've gone into over the last couple months. And that's what really excites us about what could 2026 hold for the project. And once again, is there a more massive source of this mineralization? Is there separate gold controls separate than the copper that we need to drill separately? Part of the reason why we are put a lot more emphasis on updating our geological model as a result of all of these key developments in phase three. And I think now the market is starting to see what we saw a year ago, what we saw a year and a half ago, as to where could this project go, and also how valuable this type of asset could be. We saw the writing on the wall for gold and silver and commodities. We were a lot earlier on the trade, and it took a lot longer to pan out. But we knew that when the market was here, there'd be producers just printing cash like they are, scrambling to buy assets because they've neglected exploration for so long. Like you look at Quebec, we've seen over the last year, most of the 2 million plus exploration companies have been taken out. We see Northern Superior, we see Probe, we see O3, we see Cisco Mining. Like to note, like one of my advisors, Victor Cantori, has done an excellent job with Amex. I think that could be very well the next takeover candidate with how well they've done it at Amex. But it showcases the majors want to be in Quebec. Also, with Fresnillo taking over Probe, that was not in the province or in Canada prior to that. It showcases as well the demands for tier one jurisdictional assets at a point in time that, in the case of copper, like so much of the copper supply is in areas of nationalization, political instability risk. So we kind of in the perfect storm. We are developing an asset that is nearing critical mass at a time that the copper, gold, silver markets are breaking out, at a time that the producers need to scale. So we've really hit the perfect storm, and we have the team that I'm confident will be put the company in the best position to deliver.
And how many drill rigs are you going to be using as part of your phase four 45,000 odd meter drill program?
So this winter we'll have a minimum of 3. One drill will be assigned solely to regional. This is the first property-wide B26 drill program we've done since optioning the project on the basis of our VTEM, gravity, and surface geochem programs. So we're very excited about that. We feel like we've built up very strong targets, leveraging what was limited historical drilling done by BHP in the 80s and 90s, pairing it with the targeting work we've done over the last 2 years. And we think we're in a good position to make a meaningful discovery. And if we're able to do that, then the market could speculate how much more is there here? How much more is there between B26 and the South Bay mine? So that's why we're excited. It's a riskier program, certainly, but we think we've positioned our targets in a good position for success. We're excited about that. So minimum 3 drills this winter. We may scale up, but certainly after breakup, we'll be going pretty continuously with 2 to 3 drills minimum through the duration of the year. So lots of news flow for investors, especially in this exciting market.
Yeah, and just to touch on the VTEM, I think when I was reading, you guys outlined 8.7 kilometer sort of high priority drill target from that. Was any interesting info that was kind of revealed from that? Was that what you were expecting? Is it bigger than you expected? Has that really helped you determine your exploration sort of strategy with the drill?
Yeah, like what we knew prior to the V10 is B26 sits on a contact that extends about 8.1 kilometers property wide. We have a secondary targeted structure between us and the Salve mine, and that survey has given us targets on both of those structures. We pair that with what has been limited historical drilling that has seen some good initial sniffs and starting grades near surface. So really the VTEM helped both validate some of the targets that we have. It came up with some blind targets that we weren't aware of prior to doing that survey. But again, it combined with other methods, it positions the targets as best as we can, and it helped us prioritize of the 7 targets, which ones are we going to focus on for this winter. and how do we best allocate our budget. So we'll be drilling those immediately, doing downhole geophysics on those targets. If we hit something, we're going to be scaling up meters allocated to regional right away. And if we're on the fringe of something that's larger, the downhole should be able to tell us whether or not we've hit a system, but we may be on the fringe of that. So I think we've really built up a good strategy on the regional side, as you mentioned, with the starting point with the V10.
Now, you mentioned a little earlier in our chat that you're planning on updating your mineral resource estimate, coming out with another one after Q2 here, or in Q2. Maybe you could sort of talk a bit about that. The drilling that will have been done to be included in that update. Are you looking to sort of move more of your pounds into more into better categories, more on the indicated side of things, or are you also able to bring in some new exploration from some of the results that you had from some of the step outs and some of the new zones that you encountered last year?
Our focus for this update was expanding inferred. Our goal
Oh,
and the benchmark that some of the producers when we had feedback is they want to see how big this is. The infill is important, and some of it what we call resource improvement drilling, and just
sure.
to explain that for a second, targeting areas of the block model that we think are understated in terms of tonnage and grade, and we've demonstrated multiple areas of that, of which that was the case, especially with some of these very high grade results that we've had over the past few months. But again, the market wants to see size, and that's what has been the driver of our strategy over the last year. And our goal has been focused on an increase in inferred. As a result, I believe that we will have increased indicated and potentially working to converting into other buckets as we increase the drill density. But I think investors should look out for inferred. That's been our goal for this year, swinging for size, and we're pretty confident on our goal of delivering in the second quarter.
Excellent. And in this day and age, VMS deposits can be pretty interesting deposits because of the polymetallic nature, depending on your met work, which I'm going to ask about in a few minutes.
Mm.
Depending on the metallurgy, they can be, very robust on a per ton basis because of the higher grade metals as compared to like a porphyry style project, which, you're going to be moving through a lot more tonnage and have much higher capex. But in this type of environment, what do you think what do you think like the threshold for production decision would look like on a 3% equivalent sort of VMS deposit? Is it still like 30 million tons, 25 million tons? What's sort of the thing that people want to see? Is it 40?
I, well, I think in this environment at $6 copper, I can't even keep up to gold, over $4,500 gold and over
Yeah.
$90 silver. That threshold is dropping on what is required for an economic deposit. I think again, we're not running benchmarks at those prices. We're running benchmarks at much more conservative prices. When we bring out an updated resource, our gold will still likely be at $2,500 to $2,800 to be conservative, and using conservative copper estimates. So we're not betting on that market, but it certainly reduces that threshold of what's required to be a deposit of critical mass or hit that economic threshold. So I believe that we're there. I think we're very close to being there. We are in the process of exercising our option agreement with the Quebec government on the basis of an internal scoping study. We have started to build an internal mine plan. We're very excited, as I mentioned, to have Dave Bernier join the team that is a proven mine builder, whether that was with Foran. He was the GM of Pan American Silver. He built multiple mines in his time at Dumas. Because of us feeling that we're there or very close is part of the reason why we brought Dave to the table, to help take it from our belief to being able to showcase it to the market, whether that's through a formal PEA. The timing on that is still to be determined. We think that there's still a lot of growth in terms of the resource. So we need to time those two variables right so that we're not bringing out a PEA too early that says, okay, are you not believing in the upside of exploration? So again, we want to monitor those factors carefully to make sure we bring it out at a time that's going to create value for investors. So, but I haven't given you a definitive answer because there's a lot of moving pieces,
That's all
but we
right.
think that we're very close to critical mass.
Sure.
And I think that's part of what we're going to be able to outline to the market this year.
Answered like a great politician. So all good, all good. It's a silly question, really, but I appreciate you giving it a good attempt and explaining the thought process behind it, because it's not a simple one to sort of just answer. Investor types, we like to think we can back of the envelope and say, oh, it's got to be this, otherwise we're not interested. But like you said, there's lots of other factors that are in play. So in terms of you sort of building your team, are you guys threatening to like try to take this right through to like a development decision and put it into production if it met that sort of threshold? There's usually two business models in our business. You build it and sell it, or like you advance it and then you sell it to somebody else who's going to build the mine, or you take it right through to production. And those are usually sort of like the two kind of business models. I know that when we first chatted, maybe there was a bit more thought that you'd sort of like prove it up and hopefully get acquired or monetize it. But with some of the additions, are you sort of thinking maybe a little differently and go all the way through, or are you just trying to make sure that that as much as what the people kicking the tires are looking at, and that you designed it in such a way that it will show well, leaving some optionality, perhaps?
I think when we were reflecting on our strategy in 2025 as a board and trying to think, well, the market has started now. We saw the M&A in Quebec. We're seeing the markets in terms of commodity prices, and we're also reflecting on how do we position this asset in the best that we can. The worst thing that a company can do is put up a for sale sign, because that takes the momentum out of a stock. It takes the urgency out of a
Yeah.
producer that may be considering the story. So what we reflected on is we felt we had a world class asset, uh, and we sought out to look for who could help us on the mine development side, and that's why once again we're excited to have Dave. I'm sure other team members will come on as we advance the asset on that front. But how do we get the most value for shareholders? It's moving all strategies forward. A senior producer wants to see not only the drilling, not only the exploration, but the social licensing, the permitting, the environmental side. They want to see the big picture. And that's how you get best value. And what I believe and board believes is we get best value in this marketplace is advancing all of those pieces together so that at some point it may make it a very easy decision for a producer, because we've done a lot of the work that is needed to do to ensure the long-term success and development of a potential project like B26. So we have the expertise to take it as far as we need to, or to commercial production, and we're excited to broaden and strengthen our strategy this year across all those buckets.
I know, your bro does a little bit of work there with the Fiore Group and pals around with a certain billionaire over there. They've obviously turned their attention to mine development and really helping sort of like struggling mines, sort of with turnarounds. They've got one under their belt there quite successfully so far. We'll see how some quarterly financials sort of pan out and what happens with average grades and such. But they've been able to sort of get I think a two-time sort of bankrupt or difficult sort of gold mine back into production. They did it at a lightning pace, very
Mhm.
fast. So and now they've got two other, if I'm not mistaken, sorry, three other development stage assets that I'm aware of, that are either at production or will be in production the next 18 months. So quickly becoming much more than just sort of like exploration, quickly building sort of like bench strength. um, I think you guys had, Frank, as a shareholder, maybe you do, maybe you sort of, we, under sort of 10% sort of threshold. Is there still quite a lot of sort of kind of conversation with those types of groups that can really help on sort of like, the production or development, capital market sort of strategy? You mentioned BMO was very sort of critical for you for raising some capital. Are there any other groups that you can like speak about that have been, influential in really helping you with some mentorship and moving this thing forward?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, Shane Williams with West Red Lake has done an exceptional job, and Shane's an advisor of the company, and I look forward to catching up with him over the short term because we've made a lot of made a lot of progress, but he's done an excellent job there, and certainly Shane and Eric on the exploration side, and now having more regular conversations with Craig Perry on the capital markets and technical. We really have a great team, and I think I always be very appreciative to our banking partners at BMO. We were the smallest company at the BMO conference last year at 30 million market cap. And we wrote out and part of the message from the institutions was like, with your asset, what's broken? And like, where's the skeleton on this? Because it's too good to be true. And our goal was we're going to come back next year at 100 million market cap. And we beaten that by 1 month. And we're very excited to be going back into the BMO conference now clear of 100 million, because like some of the companies that we've supported in the space, one of the biggest challenges is to move a company from 40 million to 100. But once you get it to 100, the distribution opens up significantly, especially with the needs of these funds to have critical metals exposure. And also, if you can get a critical plus gold, it meets it checks a lot of boxes. And a lot of these funds have missed the trade so far and are now scrambling because they have so many investors looking at the gold and copper price and saying, what should we be in? And like deploying more capital. So really, I think we've had great supporters from BMO, as I mentioned. They bet on us early, and they brought a lot of good shareholders to the table that are now on the registry that see the value of B26. But we look at our advisory board, each of them, plus now our management team and recent ads, each of them have played a part in this story and have helped shape what we now have today.
Any interest in looking at like a US listing at some point? You know, that seems to have been kind of an interesting tactic for some Canadian resource companies in order to attract, different type of investor base, shareholder base, getting the Robinhood shareholder base, all those sort of like online, telephone discount broker traders. There's so many of them. Obviously, being able to get sophisticated sort of investors, and mining's become a bit more in vogue south of the border as well. So, any starting to look at anything like that, or is that like off the table?
It's something that we're considering. I think we're also looking to a more senior Toronto listing. So there's a few pieces. Uh, yes. So the answer is yes, we are looking at listing options of how do we get more exposure. I would say that some of the small to large US funds are now trying to find exposure wherever they can get. So the listing requirement to them, it's not a benchmark, but the retail side certainly by having a strong US listing would benefit from us, especially at a time that I think we're still in early innings in this market. And I think the general market is still not there. And like, I'll give you an example. We started to present at generalist family office conferences because we wanted to be at conferences where we're the only mining company. It allows us to help gauge the sentiment of the market, but also once these family offices that we presented to, large real estate capital, these are very deep pools of capital, and they haven't been in the mining trade yet.
Let's
But
keep
we
them
want,
out.
yeah, well, but at least for now. But
Yeah,
uh,
let's. Yeah, no, you have to do it. I'm just kidding. But when I just recently I've seen a couple of like totally value driven investors that like to own a resource stock would be blasphemy. They'd never do it. In their eyes, a silly thing. And now they're like hey, give me a list of junior miners. I got to get into this market. And I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
we've just got a market. So you got to stay strong. Keep with those mining centric investors. But I understand your strategy. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And looking at like a U.S. Listing at some point, if things can continue to go your
Mhm.
way, or a more senior Canadian listing, I think again, only just helps with being able to get access to more people that could own you, generalist
Yes.
or domain experience. So yeah, so that's good. Now, what about you guys are getting some success moving this asset along. Got your eyes on any other potential assets, or are you really like focused in on this and think you've got your single, your I know you got a gold project as well, but a fairly early
Yeah.
stage one. Are you looking at any other sort of like acquisitions, or are you really focused on what you have?
Our focus is B26 and district. What? Yeah. Everything around B26 is a focus to us.
Okay.
Certainly, the South Bay mine is something that we would like to look at in detail at some point down the road. We think that the logical development would be to open up a central processing facility there, given the power line, the substation, and then build out from there. So we are very focused on the B26 area. We think it's also a very underexplored camp. We're confident that there's more discoveries to be made there. But again, focusing on our flagship project and leveraging that if the right project and valuation comes up in the district, but certainly very focused on that area for the foreseeable future.
Now, your guys' family, the DeLuce sort of name, you guys are pretty, for those of my audience that maybe don't really, know you guys do have quite a history of investing and being involved in the mineral exploration space. Do you want to sort of speak a little bit to that, or should anything you want to comment on? Because this isn't your first rodeo.
Yeah, no, we've been in the mining space for about 25 years as private prospect generators, being able to develop assets privately, sell them to juniors, finance, um, and sit on the boards. We were a part of a couple takeovers during that process. We've built up royalties focused in Ontario and Quebec as a result. But I think we mentioned earlier is these markets also bring out a lot of bad actors, and that's what the lifestyle companies is something that we really prided ourselves on, building a model that allocates capital well, positions shareholders well, but we we saw the factors coming together to produce the market that we're in today. We didn't think it would take this long, as I mentioned earlier, so we didn't nail the timing, but we knew the trade was there. And sometimes these markets, as Rick Sewell says, and I think I mentioned last interview, these markets shake a lot of people out of it because it is hard to know when it is really going to ramp. And we've had so many false breakouts over the last 10 years. But we feel the market's here. We've had a history in the space. And I think as we talked about last time, the producers were trading like junior mining companies for such a long period of time. But now we see like IAMGold that's up like 600 to 700% since the low. But what that means is there's a lot of capital that's been made in the producers, and that's now coming down cap. And I think we're still early on in that. And I think there's a lot of room to go with growth in the small cap developers at a time that a lot of them are being bought out. So we saw and positioned for the space in Abitibi. We financed some other juniors. We've been shareholders within the producers. Um, but but yeah, really for our thesis to be uh, paying off, but also now with our flagship company getting recognized. And I think our last interview in February, Abitibi was on fire sale, and I now feel like we're on sale. The market's starting to recognize it, but there's a lot of room to go, and I think we have a strategy that we're confident in delivering in 2026.
What's the market cap approximately? I'm going to put you on the spot of a company like Foran. You guys are obviously pointing to that a lot more as saying, hey, maybe that's the type of thing that we could be in the future. There's a bit of a similarity in terms of like if you could grow your VMS and it's another Canadian based company that is, now what's approximately their market cap as compared to yours?
Their market cap is over 3 billion now. And again, in 2020, they were a sub 50 million market cap company. But they crossed critical mass. They had the right team members. Dan Meyerson's done an excellent job with Foran, getting the right backers that saw his vision. And now Agnico is a large shareholder, and they have support from all of the key funds in Canada that want to support critical development that the country needs. We're sitting at, I think we closed at 130 million market cap today, but we have 24 million in cash, leaving a rough EV of 100 million. And once again, I think I think it's a lot. We have a lot of milestones to deliver, but our pathway from 100 to 500, I think I think we have a good chance at that. And I think we have the distribution, we have the asset. The drill bit has to cooperate, the development side has to cooperate, but we've really positioned the company the best in a great position to target that move from the 100 to 500 million market cap. And I think we have a chance at that. I think we've built a world-class team. We have an asset that ticks a lot of the boxes. There's no guarantees, but we've positioned the company well at a time that the market is looking for critical, especially copper gold projects. So we
So
think it's still a lot of value to come.
excellent. So let's just approximately how many shares are outstanding?
187 million shares outstanding.
And what's your fully diluted number?
Fully diluted is just around 191 million.
Okay, so not that much different, not too much of an overhang. So that's good to see. That's great. So you mentioned like, hey, there might be an opportunity here to go from 100 to 500 million. Things have to cooperate. What are some of those things, like specifically, what are some of the catalysts that we should expect to see over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think 6 to 12 months, first and foremost, updated resource. We're confident in delivering that in Q2. I think we're going to start to answer the questions of taking large scale step out whole targets to say, okay, how much bigger could this be? Could this be a cell-based size target? Is there a potential to make a discovery of a new parallel lens, larger connection uptrend? Is there a new potential lens uptrend? Answering those questions will be important of how big could this really be. And I think part of it is commodity prices. Are we able to support this market? I think we are, but again, all commodities, gold, copper, silver, have come a long ways. I think that we're overdue for a pullback. How long could that last? How does that affect equities? But this has been a coiled spring. So could we continue to accelerate? We could. So, but really, I think, as I said, resource in the near term, resource update Q4, Q1. Do we deliver a PEA during that time period? Still to be determined. Is there other consolidation that we can do around B26? That's a potential catalyst. I think during that time period, we'll have a strategic 5% investment from one of the producers, able to help validate and backstop our vision on the project and starting to work with potential end partners that could look to develop this and potential takeover down the road. So I think there's a lot in store. And again, without the hard work of the team, they've been very dedicated and really positioned the company well.
Well, excellent. I really appreciate your time there, Jon. You'll be happy to know that Abitibi continues to be a core TokStocks portfolio stock for 2026. You were a core stock for 2025, and you rode the bench there in 2024. Just wanted to sort of get a little, see how things sort of went for you. And anyways, looks like a formative time for the company, and it sounds like some great potential catalysts ahead of you. This is actually where I am most interested, is when you know you've like got something. How big could it be? How desirable could it be? Exploration is also kind of fun.
Mhm.
But when things are starting to come together, and you get top quality talent that wants to sort of join things, you're starting to hear maybe strategic investment from a major miner to validate projects. That type of validation, like you said, the hard work is to get to 100 million. Yes, there's lots of hard work, but 100 to 500 is a little easier than trying to go from like 20 to 100. I found. I found that it's usually that tough slog without the institutional investor to really kind of get to that 100 million. Then once you do have the institutional and corporate sort of investors, it can be a little different. So I wish you lots of good luck for the year ahead, and hopefully we can catch up here after a couple of months, and you start getting some of these drill results out, and we start hearing a bit of noise about what's happening with your resource calculations. So look forward to catching up with you, and wish you lots of success. Any final thought that you want to leave anybody who might be considering making a purchase of your shares?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd like to thank our shareholders through what was, I'd say, a building block year of 2025. The market didn't quite recognize it, but we had a lot of patient, supportive shareholders that saw the vision that stood behind us. So we appreciate everybody's support. Without their support, we can't do what we love to do at Abitibi. But I think new investors looking at the story, uh, we we've put a lot of as we've mentioned today, we've brought in a lot of key team members this year. We've had some exceptional drill results. We feel like a lot of the exploration risk, we're moving between exploration risk and now development. And I think that's a sweet spot of where there's a large catalyst in valuation. We're well positioned and well aligned with our shareholders, investing over $5 million of our own capital, owning 20% of the company. And we're drilling at $300 to $350 a meter, and that's with deep directional drilling. Our regional program is out at 250. So there's no guarantees in this business. It is a volatile business, but we pride ourselves on positioning the company and our investors as best as we can. So we appreciate your consideration, and Keir, appreciate your support as well and have me on the show once again.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate your time, John. I'll let you get on with it, and good luck, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks very much.